How long until I get interrupted by the outside noise? I live right next to a street. It's Atlanta. It's 3 o'clock. I give it 5 minutes. Hi guys, I'm Kennedy Marie and welcome to the first month of 2025's Bookie Book Club. I'm so excited for this video. I'm so excited about this book. I'm so excited about my little book club that I'm starting. I guess I should start by telling you guys why I started Bookie Book Club, because this is my first video in it. It's because I fell in love with reading again last year. I was a super big bookworm as a kid. It was something I loved. And then I got to high school. I was kind of just forced to read books for the sake of reading them. And it was like reading them to find the symbolism, to find the literary devices, to write the paper, to turn it in, to read the next book and do it all again. And I kind of just fell out of love with reading. But last year I made it my personal goal to read 30 books. I read 29. I'll be honest. My goal this year is 35, so I'm pushing myself a little harder, pushing myself a little further. I think that the book club will definitely help with that, but I want to talk about books. I want to share all my thoughts about books because I have so many big thoughts about everything because I can never shut up. And so I thought, what better than to put my thoughts out there? And if other people read the books and they have thoughts, then we can have conversations. And the first book we're doing that with is Before the Coffee Gets Cold. So this is a 2015 novel by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. This book is formatted as a series of short stories that are all intertwined with each other. So there's 4 short stories. I just put up 3 fingers. Whoa. There's 4, count them. And these 4 short stories are the lovers, husband and wife, the sisters, and mother and daughter. If you guys see me looking over to like the right, it's because I have notes. This is very serious. Before we get into the individual short stories and the characters in those short stories, I kind of just want to give an overview of what the basis of the book is. So the book all takes place inside of this one little underground cafe. And this cafe has a legend that there is a seat in the cafe that can take you to the past for a limited amount of time. And that is only done when you sit in this particular chair, you get poured this cup of coffee, and you go into the past, and you can only stay there until the coffee gets cold. Now, there are, of course, rules for when you're in the past. You cannot leave the chair. Nothing you do in the past is going to change the present, no matter what. If you kill somebody, they will miraculously live and make it to the present because nothing that you do there can change what is happening in the present day the moment you sit in that chair. And you have to drink all of the coffee before it gets cold, or you will be stuck as a ghost who has to just sit in that seat forever until someone else breaks the rules. And we see that ghost represented in the woman in the white dress. She sits in the time travel chair in the cafe, and you can only sit in the chair when she periodically gets up and goes to the bathroom. Why is the ghost going to the bathroom? I don't know. The same reason that the ghost can drink a cup of coffee. It's beyond me. It's not important. But this ghost, the woman in the white dress, can also curse people. So if you try to forcibly remove her from the chair, she will stun you. If you've watched Harry Potter, is it stupefy? They fall to the ground and they can't move. Like they've been stupefied. And then the only person who can kind of break that trance is the barista Kazu. She offers the woman in the white dress a cup of coffee and the spell is broken. But if you piss the woman in the white dress off, you're gonna find out. Now let's get into the characters. I found that there were 7 kind of essential characters to the story that were all interlooped with each other and very important throughout all 4 short stories. So we have Nagare, who is the owner of the cafe. There is Kei, who is Nagare's wife. It is important to note that she is pregnant right now. There is Kazu, who is the cousin of Nagare. She is the only one who can prepare the coffee for the time travelers and the only one who can break the spell from the woman in the white dress. There's Fumiko. She is a cafe guest who has heard of the legend of the cafe, and later in the book she will become a regular to the cafe. There's Fusagi, who is a cafe regular who has been diagnosed with dementia, important to note. There is Kotake, who is Fusagi's wife, and she is a nurse who also becomes a regular at the cafe. And then there is Hirai, who is the owner of a nearby bar, and she has an estranged relationship with her actual family Important to note. Now that you know, everyone, you know how the cafe works, we can get into the first story, The Lovers. So this story is about Fumiko, who I introduced you guys to, and her boyfriend Goro. And basically what happens is Goro gets his dream job at a company, and the company is in America. And she's like, no, please don't go to America. Please don't leave me. And he's like, I gotta go to America. I gotta leave you. This is my dream job, baby. Bye. And she's having a really hard time coping with losing him. And she hears that you can go to the cafe and go back in time. And she's like, this is how I'm going to get to speak to my boyfriend again. This is how I could presumably maintain our relationship, presumably keep him. So she goes to the cafe and she speaks with Kazu, who can make the coffee. And Kazu basically tells her, like, yeah, I can take you to the past, but nothing you do in the past is going to change the future. You're still going to be broken up with, girl. Like, if you want to go to the past, go ahead. And Kazu has a very monotoned, unbothered nonchalantness about her when she's interacting with these guests, because she doesn't want to influence what their decision is going to be. But basically she's like, yeah, you can do it, but you need to get in that chair. She tries to get the lady out the chair. She gets stupefied. Kazu has to break the spell, and she's like, you need to wait until she gets out the chair. And so Fumiko spends presumably days in this cafe. It seems like she spends like 1 or 2 nights in the cafe, waiting and waiting and waiting for this woman to get out of the chair. She overhears Fusagi saying that he's also waiting to get in the chair, and she panics that like there's someone ahead of her in line. She's really worried about this, and it's really causing her some distress, but yet she is still waiting to put her life on pause and do nothing else for the chance to go back in time and talk to this man that broke up with her. And I think you can tell by my delivery that I think that is just the stupidest thing in the world. Don't mind my knee, y'all. I'm getting comfortable. But basically, she's wasting her entire present focused on what was in the past. And I think that this story being first really sets the precedent. Can you get it together, girl? The precedent of what this book is about, you know, like, is going to the past worth it? And that's what we really like discovered through these 3 stories. But she waits days and she finally gets the opportunity to sit in that chair, and she's excited to go back. She's like, even if I can't change the outcome, like, I know everything I want to say to him. I want to tell him that I love him. I want to tell him that I deserve an explanation and everything, that like I've fallen in love and I need him and all of this that she wants to say. And she gets there. She goes back in time. He's standing in front of her and she freezes. She doesn't say any of it. She stutters. That's what she says. All she says, all she can say, because when you finally get there, everything you thought you had to say, all that closure you thought you were gonna get, is not there. You're always gonna have something else to say. You're never gonna be able to fully communicate how you feel to another person, because closure doesn't exist. It doesn't. Don't go to that man for closure. Go to that lady. Go to therapy for closure. But basically, she's having this terrible attempt at a conversation with him, and he tells her that the reason that he feels like he needs to leave her is because he's insecure. It's hinted at that he has like a scar on his forehead that he feels makes him too ugly for her, and he noticed that men would always stare at her in the street and that she got a lot of male attention, and he just couldn't handle that. And he says that she deserves someone different from him. She deserves someone better. And that is his reasoning for leaving her. Do I think that's a good reason? No. I think you can work through your insecurities with the person you love if you want to. I think he didn't want to. And I also think that's fine. I think you should leave relationships you don't want to be in. Let me make that clear. I think you should 100% leave relationships you don't want to be in. So I don't think he did anything wrong. But where he does do something wrong is as she's fading away, turning into steam, about to drink the last of her coffee because it's getting a little frigid, he tells her, wait for me. Wait 3 years for me. Are you kidding? I'm gonna get closer. You wait for no one. You move the hell on. You wait for no one. If someone leaves you, that is their choice. And if they come back, they come back. But you're not going to sit and wait for them. Are you kidding? 3 years? He's lost his fucking marbles. He's lost them. I don't know.
I love him.
And I hate him. Dead homies. Nobody loves you, baby. You should only love yourself. On my soul.
But she gets back to the present and things are the same. Goro is still in America. She is still sitting in that cafe. The lady in the white dress is like, can you move? It's my seat. She gets up and that's that. Nothing changed. Does she feel better? No. Now she has anxiety. What's going to happen in 3 years? Is he actually going to come back for me? Are we actually going to get back together? Stresses that would not have been present had she not gone back. And I think what this story really pulled out for me is that my roommate, she's like my best friend, she told me that closure does not exist. And at first time she said that, I was like, wow, what a pessimistic thing to say, Bella. But as we had the conversations, I was like, you know what? It kind of doesn't. Every conversation is going to leave you with something else to think about, something else you want to say, something else you wish you knew, something you wish you didn't know, something you want more clarification on. You're never going to fully feel at peace with it unless that peace comes from within. And I think that her going into the past and trying to figure out why'd you leave me? Why couldn't we have been what I thought we could have been? None of that was really beneficial to her. None of that was helpful. And we see that throughout the book when she becomes a returning member of this cafe. She's never really thinking about herself. She's thinking about those 3 years. She's thinking about what's going to happen. And so she's never living fully in her present. She was hyper-focused on the past, and now she's hyper-focused on the future, but not her future, their future. And that's the end of The Lovers. The next story is Husband and Wife. This is my second favorite. Spoiler alert, I'm going to rank the stories at the end, but this one is my second favorite. And this one is about the two characters who I introduced you to, Kotake and Fusagi. Kotake is Fusagi's wife, and she is a nurse. So Fusagi has been diagnosed with dementia, and he comes to the cafe very often. He's a regular. He sits at the same table, not the time travel table, but he's sitting there and he's waiting for the opportunity to go into the past and bring his wife a note. We don't know what the note says. Nobody knows what the note says until Kotake comes in one day and she comes to collect him and she's like, honey, let's go home. And he says, who are you? My heart dropped reading that. He doesn't know who his wife is. She's like, I'm your wife. He's like, I have a wife. She's like, yes, I'm your wife. And he's like, nah. And he's very distressed. He's confused. And she's like, okay. And she walks over to the countertop and she sits there and the employees are kind of like, are you okay? Like, I saw what happened. And she's like, yeah, I've been ready for this moment. Like, if I can't be in his life as his wife, I'll be his nurse. I'll take care of him. And she is seemingly okay with that until... oh, I can't remember if it was Kei or Kazu, but one of the ladies who works in the cafe tells her that he wants to go in the past and give you a letter. And she's like, oh my goodness, I need this letter. I need to know what it says. So they have her think of a time in the past where he could have potentially been about to give her a letter. And she goes there and she tries to persuade him to give her the letter. She's like, oh, like, is there anything you wanted to give me? Is there anything you wanted to tell me? Because she thinks that this is a love letter. She thinks it's a love note. She's hoping for some sort of romantic affection from him. And she gets there, she starts manipulating the shit out of him. She's like, oh, like, I was just wondering if there's anything that you were wanting to tell me. And he's like, oh, so you know. Like, you know. And he gives her the letter, and it's not a love letter. It's a letter saying, I have dementia. Eventually, I'm going to forget you. And when I forget you, I want you to divorce me. I don't want you to take care of me. I don't want you to stay in my life. If I can't be a good husband to you, I should be nothing to you and you need to leave me. Obviously, she didn't want to hear that. That breaks her heart. And she's like, no, I don't want to leave you. And he's like, if I forget you, leave me. And then he realizes that she came back into the past and he's like, so it happened. I forgot you. And she's like, yeah. And he obviously gets very worked up over the prospect of forgetting his wife. And she goes, no. But you get better, and you remember me, and we end up staying together, and it's lovely. And he's like, okay. And that's pretty much the end of that interaction. She's like, okay, my coffee's getting cold. I have to go back. And he turns around to like give her the privacy of leaving. And he says, thank you. And she, in that moment, she's like, he knows I'm lying. He knows I'm lying, and he's just thanking me for trying to make him feel better. And this story, I think, sat with me in a different way than the first one, because people often think that they're lying for the greater good. They think that if I'm telling a lie to make you feel better. And is that okay? I don't know. I actually don't have a firm opinion. I was raised in a household where you never lie. I believe that if it's not that deep and it's going to make someone feel happy, it might be okay. I don't know. My mind could change. Should she have lied to him about the state of his dementia condition? Absolutely not. I think that was fucked up. I think that was terrible for her to do. I do understand that she was trying to spare her loved one. And I think she knew that the thought of forgetting her was distressing to him. And she didn't want him to feel that way. However, girl. But she comes back to the present and she does not divorce her husband. She actually begins to start to try to convince him, not the same day, but we see throughout the book, she'll come to the cafe, she'll sit in the chair and she'll be like, hi, honey, I'm your wife. And some days he'll be like, oh, I guess so, okay. And other days he'll be like, no, you aren't. She'll be like, yes, I am. And he'll be like, I don't know you. And she'll be like, okay, well, get to know me. And she's like trying to force it in a way, and she knows that that's not what he wanted. He didn't want her to have to struggle through the relationship. He wanted her to leave him, and she doesn't respect that wish. And I understand and I empathize with the fact that that's probably really fucking hard to do, but I do disagree with her actions overall. What do I think the point of this one is? I think the point of this one and the last one you have to let people go. I think it's harder in the case of Kotaki that's her husband. Like, that's her man for years and years and years. And it's not that he broke up with her. It's that he forgot her. It's completely out of his control. And can you let go of that? Can you remove yourself from that? And she tries to remove herself and just be a nurse, but she still wants her husband back. She wants that romance back. She wants to be married to him, and she doesn't want to leave him, even though that's what he wants. And she's in control of that situation. She has power in that situation because of his condition. And does she use that power in the correct way? I think no. The third story is The Sisters. The Sisters is about our nearby bar owner Hirai and her sister Kumi. And she is in an estranged relationship with her family. Her parents are owners of an inn in Japan. It's a certain city in Japan. I did not write it down. I do not remember. But they are the owners of a small inn. Is it a small inn or is it a luxury inn? They're the owners of an inn. And she did not want the inn. She left to open her bar, and the inn got passed down to her little sister. And she assumes that every time her little sister comes to visit her, it's because she wants Hirai to take over the inn because she doesn't want that burden. And Hirai avoids her because she's like, I don't want that burden either. And everyone hates me, and she hates me for not taking over the inn. And she's trying to convince me to go back so that she can have her freedom and I can be trapped with the burden of taking over the inn. And that's not what I want to do. Right. So one day her sister comes down to visit her. She hides from her. Her sister leaves, and on the way back to Japan, her sister gets in a car accident and dies. Hirai goes to the funeral. Her parents don't speak to her. Her parents are convinced that she is responsible for Kumi's death because Kumi was going to visit her. And if she was already in Japan, presumably she wouldn't have had to go visit her. She wouldn't have been in the car. She wouldn't have died. It's a fucked up connection to make, but that's how they're feeling about it and that's how they're coping with it. And Hirai comes back and she's trying to be as positive as possible. She's seemingly unaffected. She's like, oh no, the funeral was fine. Like, don't I look so weird wearing all black? Like I usually have on much more colorful clothes. And her friends at the cafe are like, girl, you're not okay. And she decides, you know what? I should go back and have one final conversation with my sister. I should go back and talk to her one last time. I should go back and see her one last time. And so when the opportunity comes, she gets in the chair. Kazu pours her the coffee and tells her drink it before the coffee gets cold, and she goes back. Kumi comes into the cafe in the past and they begin to have a conversation. And Hirai tells her, I'll take over the inn. I'll come back. I'll work at the inn. And Kumi's very excited about that. And she's like, oh my goodness, this is all I've ever wanted, was to run the inn with you. Like, I've always wanted to work with my big sis. And Hirai realizes in that moment that she completely misjudged her sister. It's not a case that she wants for you to take over the inn so that she doesn't have to deal with it. She wants you both to deal with it together. She wanted that unity with you. She wanted that love and respect and community with her sister. And she never gave her that. And she always assumed that there was this animosity there that was truly one-sided, but she didn't know because she never gave her that conversation. And Hirai starts to feel horrible for her behavior. She starts to feel like she could have had a closer relationship with her sister had she sat down and listened to her the first 15 times that she tried to talk to her, and she could have. That's the thing, is that you go back in the past and you realize things didn't have to be the way that they are, but they are, and there's nothing you can do about it. And Kumi goes to the bathroom and she's sitting there and she's in distress, and Hirai doesn't know what to do, and she's like, I just need to see my sister's face one more time. But her coffee is starting to get cold, and she's holding it and she's feeling there's not a lot of warmth coming from the mug anymore. It's not a lot of warmth coming from the coffee cup. Pause, isn't my coffee cup so cute? But there's not a lot of warmth coming from the coffee cup. It's about to get cold, and she's like, I just need to see her face one more time. I just need to see her one more time. And Kazu, who knows what's going on, like, she knows why she's in the chair, even though it's the past. She's like, you gotta go back. Like, you can't get stuck. Like, you can't be a ghost. You have to go back. And she's really fighting, like, do I go back and live in a world where I know that I could have had a relationship with my sister, and the fact that I didn't ultimately led to her death? Am I okay with that? Can I live like that? But ultimately, she decides, why can't I talk? Ultimately, she decides to chug down the coffee, and as she's fading away, she gets to see her sister one last time because she comes back to the table. This story meant a lot to me. I think that sisters are the most important people on this earth. I think that the relationships that you form and you have with your sisters are just so life-changing, and they're also so hard because being related doesn't automatically make you compatible. It doesn't automatically make your personalities mesh well together. But I think sisterhood and positive sister relationships are about having the understanding that, like, your sister is just a person just like you. She is a girl trying to figure it out just like you, and giving them that grace. And I think that if Hirai would have given Kumi that conversation, understood where she was coming from, she didn't have to say, yes, I'll do what you want, but she could have heard where she was coming from, and she lived her life with this hostility towards her that didn't have to be there. And I think that that resonated with me because I am a person who can get easily annoyed, easily bothered. And sometimes I don't want to hear what the person who's bothering me has to say. I don't really care. I don't really care what your reasoning behind bothering me is, but I'm bothered. And I think that it really just sat with me, like, you have to hear people out. Their intentions may not always be what the result was. And I think that sometimes your intentions are more important than the result. In certain cases, I'm not going to get into it too much, but I think that Kumi's intention was very good. And I think that if Hirai would have heard her out sooner, they could have had a very, very, very different future. And it's really unfortunate the way that that story turns out. But when Hirai returns to the present, she decides that she is going to move to Japan, repair her relationship with her parents, and take over the inn so that Kumi's legacy is not just sadness. Like, Kumi died and Hirai and their parents still don't like each other and everyone's just sad. She wants that inn to be her legacy. And so she goes back to Japan to fulfill her sister's legacy. And I think that that is so beautiful and heartwarming. So before we get to the final story, I need to give you a rundown of what has been happening in the background. So before the main stories start, there's like a little blurb of like things that are happening in the cafe. And what we're seeing is that people start questioning, like, if you can go to the past, can you go to the future? And it's Fumiko who's questioning this. She's like, could I go 3 years into the future by any chance? Oh. And they're like, you can, but like, what if he doesn't show up to the cafe in 3 years? You're just gonna be sitting there. Like, there's no point in going to the future because there is no way to guarantee that what you want to happen or what you want to see will actually be there. There's also a young woman who travels from the past into the cafe and asks to take a picture with Kei. She doesn't really explain. She takes the picture and she leaves. And then, as I shared with you guys, Kotake and Fusagi, he still doesn't remember her. She's still trying her best. It's starting to weigh on both of them. But then we get into the final story, Mother and Daughter. And this is about Kei and Miki, a character who I have not introduced to you guys yet. And Kei is pregnant, but she has a heart condition that is making her a high-risk pregnancy. She could die, the baby could die. The chances that they both live are almost none, but there's a higher chance that she could die and her baby could live, and she is okay with that. She's like, I'm okay with passing away if it means that my baby gets to go into this world and live a good life. But the thing that distresses her is the possibility that this child will grow up to be lonely and unhappy because they did not have a mother. And I think that, first of all, that's a really, really, I'm going to use the word noble. I think that that's a really noble way to think about it. I would be very, very concerned about my own death. And she's kind of just like, no, I want my child to live, but the only thing I'm worried about is if my child's going to be happy while they're living. And woo, is she a good woman, okay? She is a good woman. And so she tries to go to the future to meet her daughter. And she tells Kazu, I want to go exactly 10 years in the future. I want it to be 3 p.m. and I'm going to be right here. And can you make sure that my child comes to this cafe at 3 p.m.? I think it was August 27th, which is Kei's birthday. She made it a date that would be easy to remember. My birthday, 3 p.m., 10 years from now. They go to the future and it gets mixed up, and it's actually 15 years in the future at 10 o'clock instead of 10 years in the future at 1500, like military time. But regardless, Miki still comes into the cafe and she is uncomfortable down. She looks at Kei, she realizes that's her mom, and she's like, like, she doesn't know what to say because she doesn't know this woman. Like, yeah, you're my mom, but like, you're not really here. Like, you're a figment. And so Kei's kind of trying to talk to her. The conversation's not really going anywhere. Miki goes to the back and Fumiko walks in. And it's presumed that her and Goro never got together because this is 15 years in the future and she is still in this cafe. And she says that she looks over the cafe now. And she's like, yeah, I don't think my daughter wants to meet me. And she's like, no, of course she does. She does. Don't worry. She does. She talks about you. She acts about you. Don't worry. I'm going to make it happen. And she goes to the back and she gets Miki and she brings Miki out. And she's like, talk to your mom. And they have a very tense and frankly uncomfortable, from my perspective, conversation where she's kind of just like, yeah, my life is actually good. Like, yeah, I'm sad about not having a mom sometimes, but like most of the time I'm happy. Most of the time I'm okay. Like, I'm grateful that you made that sacrifice so that I could live this life, and I thank you for it. Has my forehead shine been distracting? It's been distracting me. I'm very dewy. I used this e.l.f. setting spray, and it really is, I feel like a disco ball. I'm sorry, that was really off topic. I just saw my forehead actually reflect the light back to you guys, and it was a lot for me. Oh, I completely forgot. This is why I have notes and I have not been looking at them. When Mickey goes into the back, Kay is like, you know what? I should just drink the coffee now and leave. I don't want to put her through any more distress. I got to look my daughter in her face and see that she grew up, like, to be healthy and beautiful, and that's all that matters. But that's when Fumiko comes in and is like, wait, no, you guys need to talk. And the conversation is like going okay. And she's like, like, I have to drink this coffee. I have to go back now. And she starts to drink it. And as she's traveling back to the past, Mickey finally calls her mom. And Kay breaks into tears, and so did I.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Oh my God, that was so cute and like sad and beautiful. But Mickey comes back to the past in tears, but they can tell it's happy tears, and Nagara is like, oh my God, thank God my daughter survives. And that's how the novel ends. This final story, I think, even though it did make me very emotional and made me tear up, I think it could have been more powerful. I don't know. I think that relationships between mothers and daughters are so complex. Now, each story in this book is 40 pages. So like, they had to like wrap the book up, tie up loose ends, and deliver this story in 40 pages. And I think that he did a very great job of that. I think it was beautifully written. I wish that we could have like seen more of it, but that's the whole point, is that you don't get to see everything that you want to see. You have a limited amount of time. How quickly does coffee go cold? What, 7 minutes? 15 minutes maybe? Let me not say 7. I don't drink hot coffee. Shit's disgusting. So I don't know how long it takes for it to go cold. My tea stays hot for a very long time. I probably could have got a 30-minute conversation out, but even that's not enough to like build a relationship with your dead mom, and I don't know. I felt like this story could have been more, but I'm satisfied with what we got, I guess. But I think the others were more impactful. So I'm gonna rank them now. My number 1 story is the sisters Hirai and Kumi. I myself have 3 sisters, so I love reading stories about people and their sisters and their relationships with their sisters. I have great relationships with my sisters, but I think reading about people who kind of have lost that closeness is also important, because I think it really reminds me to value the relationship that I do have with my sisters and to uphold it and keep it intact. And something I'm working on for sure. My second favorite story is going to be Husband and Wife. I think that they handled the topic of dementia well. I think that they handled the complexity between being the nurse of your sick husband who forgets you and wants you to leave him, and not knowing if you can do that, not knowing if you can separate yourself and step away. I think that's so hard and messy, and I think that they showed well how hard and messy it was. And I think in this case, and this is why mother and daughter kind of falls flat to me, this is so complex and it got talked about very well in 40 pages. Now, what I will say is that it had the beauty of being the second story, so it could continue to bubble throughout the next 2, and we could hear more about it throughout the next 2. I think Mother and Daughter did suffer from being the last story in the book, but Mother and Daughter is going to fall to number 3 for me. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was different. I liked that they went to the future instead of the past. It added, a new level to the book. I liked the way everything tied together in this more so than I actually liked this short story itself. I love seeing in the future that they were all still friends. Hirai was doing good. Like at the end, her relationship with her parents was healing. It wasn't perfect, but it was healing. And I think it did a really good job at tying everything together, though I felt like, I'm gonna keep repeating this, I felt like the relationship between Kay and Mickey wasn't fleshed out enough, but I think that's the point. I think that's the point. I'm giving it grace and saying that I think the point was that you weren't gonna get what you needed to get from that. No closure, no closure. And in last place for me is gonna be The Lovers. Don't chase no man. You just can't chase no man. I'm sorry. I just can't. I can't. Reading this one pissed me off. It was well written. Let me tell you. Fumiko is a hilarious character. When you're in her brain, because each character, when you're when the story is about them, you get to hear their thoughts. They're italicized. Her thoughts were funny. She was hilarious. She was so funny. I wanted her to leave that man alone. Let that man go. Then it's his dream job. And she was like, I'm not going to ask him to pick me over his job because that's pathetic. And I was like, that's how you feel? You want him to pick you over your job? Don't say that though, girl. Don't say that. That's too honest. But yeah, I think this story was the most meh for me. I think it was the subject matter, you and your boyfriend is that's a hard situation that she was put in, but it wasn't as deep and impactful as a married couple or sisters or mother and daughter. And I think that was purposeful. I think the order in which the stories go, it goes from your relationship with your boyfriend, your relationship with your husband, your relationship with your sister, your relationship with your mother. They're deepening levels of relationships. And I think that was purposeful, and I think it was well done. And I liked it. Now I'm gonna talk a little bit more broadly about my thoughts, extra thoughts that I have. This is a series of 3 books, I think. Am I gonna read the other 2? I don't know. I can't promise that I'm gonna do that. If I do, will I give you guys a video on it? Probably. But I don't know if I'm gonna do it. And here's the reason why. I like this book. I'm giving this book 4 out of 5 stars. Do I want to read the other 2 and they be worse? No, I don't. I wanna leave with a nice taste in my mouth. Also, because they're short stories, I think it has the potential to get old real fast. I read this book in a day and a half. The stories aren't hard to read. They aren't hard to comprehend. They're short 40-page short stories. There's 4 of them. Put it together. It's fine. But do I think that I could read 8 more? No, actually I don't. I don't think I could read 8 more. I'm not going to read the next 2. But I think that the book is beautiful and I really like it. I wanted to go through a complaint I saw about the book. And they said that this book was just about women chasing what they can't have. And in a sense, yes, this is about women chasing what they can't have, but the only one that I think that really applies to is the first one, because yeah, she's chasing a man, and I've already said that I detest that. But wanting to repair your relationship with your sister, wanting to see your daughter who you gave birth to and died giving birth to, wanting romance from your husband who forgets you. I don't think that that's just women chasing what they can't have. I think that's grief. I think if anything, this is a book about... You have thoughts, Car? The hell? If anything, I think this is a book about grief, and this is a book about coping. And I don't think it's just chasing what you can't have. They said that they were just chasing very futile, finicky things. And I don't think that's true, and I fully disagree, and I don't like that complaint about this book. I think you need to read it again. That's how I feel. Now, as we wrap this up, I just want to circle back to the theme of this month. The theme of this month's book club was reflection. That's what I really picked the book based off of. And do I think that it fit the theme? Did I do a good job? In a sense, I think this book is about reflection. I mean, you're going into the past and like coping with the present, but I think more so, I think that this book is about moving forward. You know, like nothing you do in the past is going to change the present. No matter how much harping on the past you do, what you are is what you are, what you did is what you did, and you can't change it, you know? And so I do think that this was a great book for January. We can look back at 2024, we can look back at 2023, we can look back at 2022, but it's really all about what we're doing moving forward in 2025, because we can't go back. I can't go back to 2024 and make any of those choices different than the ones I made, you know? But I can consciously reflect on that and then move into 2024 move forward into 2025. I'm having a hard time with numbers in this video. Move forward into 2025 making decisions informed on the reflection that I had in 2024. And therefore, I think that Before the Coffee Gets Cold is a good book about reflection, and I think it was a great book to start off my January. This is actually the first book I've read this year. Kennedy, how do you want to read 35 books this year? You only read one book in January. Chill on me. Summer's when I thrive. Summer's when I through the books, okay? Just like give me a second. My semester just started, and like my apartment is a mess, and the pipes busted, and like we ain't had no drinking water, and then like people spilled the fire alarm, and then my garbage disposal broke, and then and then my dishwasher flooded, and I had just been through hell and back, and then I'm in this class, and I thought it was a sociology class, but it's really a politics and policy class. Girl, February's book. February, what am I thinking of when I'm thinking of February? I'm thinking Valentine's Day month. I'm thinking Black History Month. You see where I'm going with this? In February, we are reading a Black romance novel. We are reading When I Think of You by Maya Ariel. I cannot tell you how excited I am. I picked this book because as of right now, it is currently like the run of Oscar season. Like all of the things are coming up. Golden Globes just happened. We need BAFTAs, we need SAG Awards. But like we're getting to the Oscars. And I have been watching a lot of movies, and this book is about a woman who wants to be an actress and her relationship with a director. And it just fits into everything. It fits into everything going on right now. Like the Black History Month of it all, the Valentine's Day of it all, the Oscars of it all. Like, it's perfect, I'm so excited. And the cover, gorgeous, it looks so good. So with this novel being about a Black woman who is not where she wants to be in her career and is trying to go after her career goals and her dreams while also maybe falling in love with someone, giving someone a second chance, trying to see if you can love someone who is in your field of work and has gone further than you, who exists in a state of privilege. I think this book is going to be, of course, about love, but also about balance. Can she balance all those different things that are going on in her life? And so the theme, obviously, is love and balance. And I am so excited for this book. I am so excited for the rest of the year. I am so excited for the Bookie Book Club. I realize that it may look like it says Bookie Book Club, but it's Bookie Book Club because I call everyone Bookie. It's actually really inappropriate. I have to stop. I probably won't. But with that being said, I am Kennedy Marie. This was January's book club installment. Today we talked about Before the Coffee Gets Cold, and I will hopefully see you guys before the end of February. I would love to post something. Will I film something and upload it before it's time to upload the next book club video? You guys can't pour a cup of coffee and go into the future and find out. So I guess you'll have to wait. Bye-bye.